are but a few days away from AEW's all-out pay-per-view, and because we're all wrestling fans, we like both WWE and we like AEW and Impact and whatever else is going on, New Japan. A lot of pay-per-views recently, a lot of pay-per-views. It's just now like the world goes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then you get to the weekend and there'll be a pay-per-view. And I'm all right with that. I'm not moaning. It just feels like a lot. But before we get there, we need to decide whether All Elite Wrestling did a good go-home show for this big event or if they absolutely sucked. If you watched this before, you know the latter isn't likely to happen because mostly they do all right. Let's up those downs. So I think we can say that AEW Dynamite has found its own stereotypical opening, and it's just crazy, crazy matches. Here we had Otis and Santana taking on the Best Friends, and I was like, you damn right, because we need revenge for Sue RFS. And you could tell that the Best Friends, the Best Buds, the pals were really wound up about this, because they attacked the Inner Circle members during their entrance, and even during that I was like, you gotta beat them, you don't mess with people's mothers. I've said it before, and I'll say it again right now, do not mess with people's mothers, and don't put them on forklifts. If you know, you know. Unfortunately for Taylor, this did not go well at all, because he spent a lot of his time constructing this like chair building thingamajig, and while he wanted to throw his opponents onto it, he did not, and instead they hurled him, and he crashed through it, and his back exploded into 72,000 pieces. Trent was having a terrible night as well because he was knocked off the apron into the steel steps, and once again I was like, my back. And I was also a bit like, wait a minute, referee, what the hell are you doing? He was witnessing all of this with his two eyes, not like he's Rey Mysterio or anything. But he's just like, well, I don't care, I'll let it go. Who knows? The Best Friends still managed to put themselves in a position where they had this one after Trent hit the crunchy on Ortiz, but Santana grabbed his tag team partner's arm and he kind of put it on the ropes, he kind of missed, but once again the official was just staring at it, and I can only presume that he was thinking about a lovely apple pie he was going to have later. It's like, yeah, if you want to do that, I don't care, I want to eat my dessert. Santana then whammed Trent in the back, which allowed them to hit the street sweeper and get the victory, and it was at this stage I was like, you know what, referee, I am officially giving you world's worst referee of 2020. I could have done a better job, and I suck. I will say that I do think Ortiz and Santana needed that, because in my head they've lost a lot. Don't know whether that's true, but that's the impression that I had. But ultimately, I felt terrible for Sue. Poor Sue. Sue has had a crappy time as of late. Her car got ruined, and now she'd have to go through this. No revenge for flipping Sue. Straight into some nonsense with MJF, but it was the kind of nonsense I like thrown into my face, because his lawyer, Mark Sterling, had barricaded himself in the locker room because he's terrified about fighting John Moxley lately. So they had a good plan. Wardlow busted open the door and Maxwell got in his face and said, look, you absolute jabron, you absolute moron, you are going to do this because it was you that missed page 17 and nobody is going to take away my World Championship opportunity. You could just smell that something was coming. That may actually be my house. Yep, my kitchen was on fire. Oh well, it's okay. Nobody was hurt. But in terms of Dynamite, we then moved on to the Young Bucks teaming up with the Jurassic Express to take on Private Party and SCU, with the winning team going to take each other on at All Out, and then I presume get a number one contender tag team title opportunity. I don't know. But all I do know is this was fun, and sometimes I think we forget about fun, F-U-N, up. Aside from all the flying around and the madness though, it was the storytelling here that really lit up my loins, because the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick, are just in such a foul mood, given everything that's happened over the last few weeks. I mean, they didn't pose for their entrance, they had grumpy faces, and when Matt saw some fan holding a sign that was like, yeah, Hangman Page, he grabbed this fan's beer and he poured it all over his head. That is not a very nice thing to do. It's not about good guys, and it's not about bad guys. This is about personal feelings, and this is about sadness. And there was no idea of team here between the Bucks and the Jurassic Express, because Matt and Nick were like, with this by itself, we're not going to tag each other in. And the only reason they were able to get control is because Daniels and Cassidy just careered into each other at one point. It allowed Luchasaurus to get the hot tag and get in there, and he was just wrecking fools 65 million years in the making, including doing a moonsault from the apron. If you don't know, that's what Tyrannosaurus Rexes used to do. They used to throw themselves off trees. Matt then balanced out all these mistakes because he accidentally super kicked Jungle Boy and was like, oh no, it's all falling apart. And then the klaxon sounded, you know what I'm talking about, raw, which signaled to everybody in a multi-person tag team match in AEW that they're allowed to run in the ring and hit all their big moves. It happens every single time, and like the good boys that they were, they heard it and they did their thing. Ultimately though, it was the Bucks hitting the BTE trigger on Quinn to get the victory, and now they will go on to All Out to take on the Jurassic Express. But something is brewing here, because again, I can't double down on this enough. Matt and Nick Jackson are not happy campers, and they even left through the heel entrance tunnel. You know, sometimes you have good guy tunnel, bad guy tunnel. They went down the bad one. Jake Hagar was then bullying Orange Cassidy. I mean, this was unreal. For starters, they were sitting like nobody's ever sat in a locker room in their entire lives because they were both facing the camera. But Jake was like, look, Orange, you piece of fruit. You better come and witness Chris Jericho's match later on against Joey Janela. Otherwise, bad things will happen. Obviously, kind of agreed and kind of didn't because Cassidy doesn't say very much. And then he looked in his rucksack. That was the segment. FTR were then cutting a promo with Tully Blanchard like the stupid morons, idiots that they are. And they were like, look, we are going to win the tag team championships on Saturday night because it just means that our checkbook and our finances are going to go through the roof. And then they addressed Hangman Page and said, look, Adam, we respect you, we love you, but you are standing in our way, so we will go through you. I just need to say that All Elite Wrestling has done a tremendous job with this whole story, because obviously it was happening beforehand with the Jacksons, it was happening here, and it's about to happen in a second too. Because it all led to an in-ring segment with Kenny Omega, who also felt the need to address it. Now, Kenny was also wearing a Hana Kimura t-shirt here, a commemorative one, and I thought that was really nice and really important because sometimes tragedies do happen, and then a few months later, we've all forgotten about them. Really important to keep it in your brain. Anyway, Kenny's major point is that while Page really screwed up, we all make mistakes, he'll have to get over it, and all that matters is that All Out, they will remain the tag team champions. FTR didn't like that, so they then strolled out, and they were all being like, ha ha, funny, because they had a cooler, and they handed Kenny Omega a chocolate milk, you know, because everything was him not drinking, and the alcohol. And I was like, that's not insulting. If somebody came out and offered me a chocolate milk, I would snatch it out of their hands, I'd go over to the turnbuckle, I'd like fall into it like Raven used to do, and I would have a sip and feel like the greatest person in the world. I'd then get my blankie and I'd take a nap. Omega challenged them to a fight if that's what they were here to do anyway, when finally Adam Page arrived, and all of this was just so layered, and all of this was just planting seeds, which delicious trees are going to grow out of in a few weeks. Because he didn't really say much, as it was Cash and Dax who were getting involved here, saying, look, admit it, Hangman, you cowboy, you did what you did to Matt and Nick Jackson because you wanted to, and we had nothing to do with it. And then they were holding the tag team titles, and Hangman Page didn't like that, but they threw them on the floor because they're a couple of assholes, and even though those guys left together, Hangman Adam Page was left in the ring with the championship belts, but Kenny Omega was on the outside. This whole thing was just shouting at you, somebody's gonna turn, but we don't know who it is. I can't even guess because I'd probably be wrong. It got me very, very intrigued. As you can tell, it got me very, very excited. What I do want to happen is Kenny Omega to go back to being the cleaner, but he just murders everyone. He murders Hangman and Page, he murders FTR, he murders Tully Blanchard, he murders, I don't know, Chris Jericho, just takes everybody out because he doesn't give a shit. Chris Jericho then lost his damn mind. He was backstage doing an interview with Alex Marvez when of course he said at All Out he's going to beat Orange Cassidy, and if it wasn't for Chris Jericho he wouldn't be half the star that he is, but he finished it by going, and I'm going to put a bullet in his head. Now what the flood? Chris Jericho gonna kill a piece of fruit. Talk about forgetting the rules to your own match as well. You came up with this, Chris. It's like some big alcoholic cocktail thing. You just need to throw him into it. You don't need to kill him. He then, however, just went to the ring and squashed Joey Janela, and I didn't really get it. Well, I got it to a certain degree because, of course, if he now loses at the pay-per-view after he does indeed get hurled into some booze, it will kind of balance this out. But I like Joey Janela, and I thought there was no need for it, especially because later on we were going to get another squash match. But also, we have seen Major Taz take on people we've never heard of, and the person we've never heard of gets some offense in. But Joey, he barely even got a licking. I mean, that would have been weird. Imagine he got up to Chris Jericho and went and licked his face. It probably would have ruined his career. Yeah, I thought this was needless. Down. Jericho wasn't done because as soon as Janela had tapped out to the walls of Jericho, he exposed the turnbuckle and he threw Janela's head into it. He was bleeding like a stuffed pig. And Jericho got the blood and he wiped it on the Orange Cassidy t-shirt he was wearing while staring at Orange like, look what I did. Can you even imagine what I'm going to do on Saturday? And then Jake Hagar was in there as a big brawl. And Sonny Kiss came out to try and calm this down, but he also got beaten up. And it basically ended with Orange Cassidy in the ring with a bit of the bubbly as Chris Jericho looked on, really upset because Orange Cassidy gave it the thumbs down, which technically is like me giving something a down. So Orange Cassidy, my lawyers are going to be in touch, not Mark Sterling. He absolutely sucks, he doesn't read contracts, but my lawyers will be in touch and I'm going to sue you. Obviously not going to do that. Now I do think the Mimosa match is going to be quite fun, there's that word again, but this didn't really get me as pumped as I was hoping that it would do. But oh well, never mind, you can't win them all, and the best part of all of this, and I think this was just on Fight TV because TNT had gone to a commercial, is that we heard Jim Ross talking about Joey Janela going, well, I think he should be a heel because of his hair and the way he walks. I'm not sure we meant to hear that, but I was really happy I did. We then had a massive brawl to advertise the fact that we are going to have the Casino Battle Royal at All Out, and it was fine. It started with Team Taz, who said that one of his guys was going to win, and then Jake Roberts was out saying, well, you interrupted me last week, so now I'm going to interrupt you, and he talked about squirrels for a while because he's a little bit strange, but of course, he's backing Lance Archer, and then Eddie Kingston was out promoting all of his guys, and well, he just burned all of them in the promo, because Eddie Kingston is the best promo. And a bunch of other dudes are out there as well, including Darby Allin, and they just had a big fight to let you know, hey, at the pay-per-view, this is what you're going to get to see again, so here's a little tease for it now. I wouldn't necessarily call it good, I wouldn't necessarily call it bad, it was just there, and it did the job it had to do. So basically it was nothing to write home about, and in fact I did write home about it, and here's the response that I got. Dear Simon, why are you writing us letters? It's 2020, you could have sent us a text message, a WhatsApp, or even an email. Also, we've told you before, we want nothing to do with you. We regret the fact that we bore you into this world, and will be happy when you're gone. They don't mean it. We have a great relationship. Had a cool promo video letting us know that at All Out we are going to get the Dark Order versus Matt Cardona, Scorpio Sky, and the Natural Nightmares. A little bit of a random prediction. I think the former Zack Ryder is going to join the Dark Order, based on absolutely nothing there. I'm just saying things out of my mouth. And that segued into Serena Deeb taking on Thunder Rosa, and I thought it was Fabu. This was just a combo of badass submission holds, hard-hitting strikes, and at one point, we even saw that octopus move. You know what I mean? When everyone gets tied up and your arm is like coming out your back and your fingers are coming out your face. It just always looks like it really hurts. Gets me invested. There was some trading of cradles towards the end of this that got me a little bit hot and sweaty for obvious reasons. If you watched Ups and Downs before, you know. But there was nothing to worry about because instead Thunder Rosa hit the Thunder Driver, whatever the hell she's calling it. It was quite a good move. She got the 1, 2, 3. And if this didn't get you excited for Rosa versus Shida at the pay-per-view, then I think you're a little bit dead inside. It's just so good. We should use Serena more as well. Thumbs all round. Moxley promo after, and you already know the deal. Although once again, he said to MJF, this is what's going to happen when we have our fight in a couple of days. It's either kill or be killed. So that is the theme of this week's episode of Dynamite. Murder, and death, and destruction. Wouldn't see that on Sesame Street, would you? On Sesame Street, it's like, oh, the theme of word of the day is love. On AEW, it's the fact that we're all going to meet our demise one day. Thanks a lot, guys, for reminding me. His major point, though, is that when they do come to blows on Saturday night, MJF Maxwell is going to have to be the meanest and nastiest version of himself that he's ever been, otherwise he's got no hope. Let me tell you this, MJF truly took that to heart. We'll talk about it in a second. We then got a little bit of sad news. However, I think this can be justified. So everything with Britt Baker and Big Swole, it's not really what I wanted it to be, but I understand. And the first big gut punch is that Britt Baker and Big Swole, who are finally going to have their big blow-off match on the All Out pay-per-view, is that it's going to be on the buy-in or the pre-show. And as you know, if you're any kind of wrestling fan, it always just dilutes it a little bit, but it's kind of obvious, right? Smacking you in the face. Baker clearly isn't at 100%, so it sounds like they filmed a cinematic match, I would suppose, and they're just going to run it and hopefully do the big thing later on. And of course that sucks. Of course that's a shame. Sometimes you just have to accept the hand that life has dealt you. We also had Reba dressed as a pizza person here, and she was trying to deliver a pizza to Tony Schiavone, who was interviewing Big Swole But of course, this was a distraction. Britt Baker attacked Big Swole, put her in the lockjaw and all that, threw the pizza on her head. And I was a little bit like, Big Swole, you're a moron. How on earth could you be distracted by a pizza person? It's in the middle of a wrestling show. Although I do understand the allure of a cheese treat. They're also going to be having a tooth and nail match, and Big Swole said it was going to be happening at Britt Baker's work, so I presume that AEW filmed this in the dentist surgery, I don't know what the hell you call it, and we could have been actually given some information as to what that entails. People keep just going, oh, it's a tooth and nails match, like, am I meant to know? Has that happened before? So that was a little bit odd, but all of this is getting a pass, because again, they've clearly been pushed into a corner, but they still wanted to give us something, and I can respect that. Also, as you know, just massively biased towards Britt Baker, 2020's best character. Good old lawyer Mark Sterling well, because he played his role in his match with Jon Moxley perfectly. I mean, when he came out, he was wearing all of this padding, and he even tried to leg it at one point before Wardlow grabbed him, looked at him, and was like, you could tell in his eyes, if you do that, I will murder you. And he would have done on this show, because we've already talked about the theme. However, Jon Moxley versus the moronic lawyer is getting it up. And this was just one big squash match. It lasted a little bit too long, but you know, Mark Sterling was running around and Jon Moxley toyed with him until he got bored and pissed off. He hit him with his shoe, which I enjoyed. Smashed him with the paradigm shift, 1, 2, 3. But the up that I just referenced is because of everything that happened afterwards as we saw the evolution of Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Moxley got jumped by Wardlow when this was done, who even gave him the F10 when out came MJF with his walker and his neck brace before throwing them away to reveal that he was never hurt in the first place. And given everything that John had said earlier, Maxwell was like, all right, you want to see my dark side? You want to see me be Darth Vader? I'll do it. And he absolutely beat the shit out of the AEW champion, including putting on the diamond ring and smacking him so hard in the skull, he started to bleed. Jim Ross very nicely let us know at this point that he was putting on the ring to do that, and not because they were going to go to prom, which I'd love to think that one person, one fan of the world was like, oh, they're going to go to prom, and they got really excited before those dreams were shattered. And as Jon Moxley laid on the floor after a proper beating, Maxwell grabbed the title and he stood over him. And there was even cool storytelling here, because do you know what Wardlow was doing? He was doing this. He was looking at that championship belt because he wants to be the man too. It gets a round of applause, and honestly, this added a whole new layer to MJF. I've never seen him so, well, crazy, I suppose, or dare I say it, Jon Moxley-esque. I also have no idea what AEW is going to do at the pay-per-view. Do you make him the champion? Do you keep it on Jon Moxley? This fired me up, and it put a smile on my face. The Joker was talking about. I genuinely can't wait to find out, and there's a lot of those when it comes to All Out, especially when you're talking about Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, FTR, and the Young Bucks. So this episode of Dynamite gets an up. It certainly wasn't perfect. The Chris Jericho stuff was a bit lackluster, and the Battle Royal advertisement brawl was a bit like, huh? And yeah, I was disappointed by Britt Baker and Big Swole, but hopefully I have explained myself, and if not, you have some comments down there to go, Simon, you're an absolute moron. You would be right. Now, yeah, don't forget to leave a comment down there and let me know what you not only feel about Dynamite, but are you excited for the pay-per-view? Because I certainly am. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling, then go and check out WhatCulture.com, follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Thank you very much for joining me. Make sure you check out Ups and Downs Retro tomorrow. We are doing No Way Out 2004, voted for by you. And Eddie Guerrero, of course, wins the WWE Championship, so expect some tears.